Okay, what is today?
Today is June 8th. I got an emergent call at work. The office said I needed to get home immediately. And
Is that what they said immediately?
Immediately. So I was like, okay, I wonder what's going on. Well, I didn't wonder what was going on. I knew what was going on.
I was talking to my best friend on the phone about God knows what, everything. And I thought, I can't just sit here and talk to her on the phone. I better go do something. So I came in here and I was cleaning all the cabinets, wiping them all down with Windex and a towel. And all of a sudden I said, I gotta go to the bathroom. So I went to the bathroom with her on the phone and I wiped and it was a little bloody and I thought, that's kind of weird. So I just came back in here, just kept doing all my stuff. And all of a sudden I felt a huge gush. And I thought, ooh, I hope I'm not bleeding. So I checked and it wasn't blood. It was just liquid. And I thought, oh, that's fine. But then as I went from cabinet to cabinet to cabinet to cabinet, it just kept happening worse and worse and worse. So I stopped and sat down and that's what happened on the floor. My underwear are there, soaking wet. Then I called you.
And I'm saying, let's go to the hospital. Let's go.
I'm just so excited that she's wanting to come on her own without the induction. And my hair's wet because I had to take a shower. I thought,
we're going.
I better take a shower.
Let's go.
There's the doctor, I bet.
I have great friends at work who wish me the best of luck. It was over the radio, everything. So we're going. Let's go.
Yes. Okay, thank you.
Hello?
Hi, Dr. Bowman. It's Nicole Johnson.
Hi, what's going on?
I am pretty sure my water broke.
Okay, good.
Does that mean you want me to come in? I imagine.
Tell me what happened, but yes.
I was sitting cleaning the cabinets and all of a sudden I had a gush and I thought it was just, you know, fluid or whatever, but it just keeps happening and happening and happening. And so I filled up 2 pads already and now I have a Depends on and it's heavy still.
Okay, are you having any contractions?
I feel really crampy but no contractions.
Okay, and your strep test is negative, right?
Correct.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, might as well just come on over when you get around to it.
Okay, no rush.
You know, I wouldn't get here in hours and hours.
I wouldn't.
Oh my gosh.
Let's not eat lunch along the way.
Start driving.
Okay, okay.
Get your stuff together and then just come on over.
Okay, perfect. Then I will see you soon. You're on call today, I imagine?
I am it, yes.
Okay.
Forever it feels like. So that'll work out great.
Well, you sound tired already. That's not a good sign.
Oh, I'm taking a nap, so I'll be awake by the time you need something. But I don't know what time it is right now, but what time do you think you'll get here just so I tell the nurses?
It's 10:30. I bet we'd be there by noon.
Okay, I will tell them.
Okay, thank you so much. See you soon.
See, now you don't have to get induced.
I know. I'm so happy about that.
Well, I'm happy for you. I'll see you in a while.
Okay, thank you so much. See you soon. Bye-bye.
Of course. Yep, sounds good. Bye.
I'm so excited. So I have these big old diapers on, but it is like still coming out of me. Like I'm kind of holding it in. Okay, we don't need the dogs to come back.
Okay. All right, we're going.
Well, got to the hospital.
And
they said my water definitely broke. It's still breaking. It's leaking everywhere. And they gave me some lunch.
Second lunch.
That was great. And I got an IV in. And my water broke about 10 o'clock. It's now 2. They said that it might take a while before my body realizes that it's time to start contractions. So hopefully they start on their own in the next couple hours. And if not, they are going to start some kind of medication to help push it along. I'm not sure what that's going to be yet. But I have my lucky socks on.
Yay!
If you watched our videos, can you see them?
Yes, chicken socks.
Chicken socks. Yeah. Tony had to leave work. Tony, tell them about when you left work.
Well, I think we covered that.
Did we in the video?
Yeah.
Why don't you turn on the... Did we?
So I was working and got called out by dispatch to a woman whose water broke, and it was my sweet little wife. So ran right from work, got here as quick as we can, got to her as quick as I could. So now it's just a hurry up and wait game.
Tony took a nice little shower already, didn't you?
Yep.
He came very muddy in his uniform, so he was able to shower and change. And now they want us to take a nap. They think we're going to be up all night.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think?
I think we should take a nap.
So we're going to try and nap. We brought some movies and stuff, so I think maybe we should have like a little movie marathon and snuggle.
Perfect. We'll keep you updated. Okay.
It's really close.
This is very close, but I got short arms. We are in the heart of contractions right now.
Mm-hmm.
How you feeling?
Oh, okay.
We just took a little bit of Pitocin, I think it's called.
Yeah, it's in my IV.
Increase some contractions.
Yeah.
To speed up the process.
It is what time?
9 o'clock on the dot.
9 o'clock, and I'm 3 centimeters and 90% effaced.
And I just had a Qdoba.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. It's coming. She's coming. So, I think we already gave a tour of the room.
I don't know that we did.
But if we haven't, wives, sit there.
My contractions.
Baby's heart rate. There's my chair. There's my little bed for the night. I did somewhat make myself at home.
Oh.
Uh-oh.
Oh.
We even got a TV.
Oh. Oh. Oh.
Okay, let me start by saying we have a lot of catching up to do. We skipped a few days. We had a few hectic days. We have a very loving, very, very cute little bundle of joy that my wife is holding right now, that Nicole is holding. But it was an eventful last couple days. It was a stressful last couple days and a very fun last couple days. Right now, little Magnolia Johnson's getting fed, so we'll stay off that for a little bit. But we left. We had just taken the epidural. Not we necessarily, but Nicole had just taken the epidural. That night, we had a few change of plans, a few stressful events, and we had to end up having a C-section. And in a blur of a notice, at 4:06 a.m., I was left alone in that chair right there, holding my brand new baby girl. And I want to introduce our sweet nurse.
Hi.
Stacy, who helped in the process, who had her hands on Magnolia before either one of us, and who's helped dramatically through these sleepless nights. But
well, it's been such a pleasure. I was just crying with you. I loved taking care of you guys so much. It's been wonderful. like really a highlight of my career, honestly.
Oh,
Yeah.
you'll make me cry.
You missed it. You were in the shower, and I was like, I love that.
I didn't know you guys were really crying.
Yeah, we were really crying. So it's been really awesome.
What a good, we've had a very, very, very good experience. It was definitely not what we had planned. We did not want a C-section, let alone a rushed one, but it was really perfect. It was definitely Maggie's first story.
Yeah. It was, we had a plan and nothing fell into place, but it worked out perfectly.
It did, perfectly, yeah.
So.
And now she's here and she's nursing, and we get to go home tomorrow.
We do get to go home tomorrow.
She gets to meet her brothers.
We love it here, and I love hanging out with Stacy, but that little layout's getting old.
Share our flowers.
Thank you to friends and camp hosts and the whole nine who have sent us flowers here in Steamboat. It's just been a whirlwind. So, I'm going to let Nicole finish up feeding Maggie here, and then we'll introduce you to Maggie.
Yeah.
Okay, so Stacy, our nurse, is going to give us the rundown on basically Maggie's journey.
Maggie's birth story.
Maggie's birthday.
So I'll give you kind of the full rundown. This might be a little lengthy, and you can edit it however you want to.
Sounds great.
So I got to work at 7 p.m. and you guys already had a little sticker monitoring called the Monica, and you've been having some issues with that, like as far as tracing baby's heart rate. And every time you had a contraction, baby's heart rate would just disappear. And I remember being in report and being like, we should go fix that. That makes me kind of uncomfortable. And so we went in, and me and your other nurse, Liz, went to go switch out your Monica. And you guys were watching Pitch Perfect.
Oh, yeah.
And you were wearing your Good Cluck Suck socks.
Yeah. All the essentials.
Yeah, very important. And so we took the Monica off, and then we put another one on, and we thought it was the battery, and we thought it was the connection, and we thought it was your skin. And so we took some sandpaper to your skin, and we reapplied, and we're still having the same issues. Later on, we found out that Nicole's abdominal wall, so her muscles are actually really thick, and so it was really hard to find the baby's heartbeat through it. Although we were thinking that maybe the placenta was anterior or in the front, which is why we couldn't find it, but it wasn't.
I don't remember that part of my muscles. My muscles are thick.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. And the placenta was actually posterior, so it was all good. So let's see. Then we switched over to the exterior ultrasound pad and the exterior toco nanometer, which is the contraction one. So the toco goes here, and the ultrasound goes at the bottom. And then from then on, it was like I couldn't find, and that was probably a 2-hour process or so. And from then on, I really just couldn't find the baby's heartbeat for more than 15 minutes. And we started Pitocin. And we started it at 2, and then we increased it by 2 every half hour. And at the beginning of the shift, the baby's, your cervix was 3 centimeters dilated. And it never went further than 3 centimeters dilated. And the reason why we found out later was because the baby had a Miss America sash of an umbilical cord, a belt, and then a leg umbilical cord as well. So even if she had continued to dilate, the baby would have never come down because it was stuck. She was stuck up a little bit higher. And the reason why we continued to have decelerations with nearly every single contraction was because the baby was getting pressed down and getting tugged with the umbilical cord, and so it was stopping the blood flow. Another important thing to talk about was there was a certain point where we were doing oxygen. We were doing a a bolus. We were doing all of the interventions that we medically know how to without having a C-section, and baby just wasn't really responding. I was repositioning you, and then I couldn't find the heartbeat, and then I'd find the heartbeat, and then it would decelerate. So then I would have to position you again, and by positioning you again, I couldn't find the heartbeat. And then once I found the heartbeat, then it was decelerating.
And this was happening like quickly. It wasn't like we were like letting it sit for 30 minutes, or
Right. Yeah.
It was like this constant moving and pressure.
Constant. I was in your room for, I think, like 3 hours before we finally, like constantly, I was in your room for 3 hours before we finally went to C-section, because Maggie just was not interested in labor at all. What else? By the time we got Dr. Bowman in, I had called her because we were having decelerations. We were doing all of the interventions that we found were necessary medically, and I couldn't find the baby's heartbeat. And I was like, I need something called an FSE, which is a fetal scalp electrode. It's a little tiny spring that you put into the baby's scalp. It's like the size of a clicker pen, like one of those. And so it just goes into baby's scalp a little bit. You can constantly feel or see baby's heartbeat, which is awesome. And at the same time, we also put something in called an intrauterine pressure catheter, which is an IUPC. Both of those were put in by Dr. Bowman, and those tell me baby's heartbeat in association with the contractions, as well as how strong the contractions are, because you can't tell on the outside, to see if her contractions are adequate to change her cervix. And they were adequate, and so your cervix wasn't changing, and you were just kind of this conundrum.
And it was a little, I mean, she makes it sound so nice, but that thing on her scalp, it was so traumatic for me to have to, decide to do that, but there's no other options, and Tony was sleeping and couldn't run it by him. I didn't want to stress him out. Right, Tone?
Yeah.
That was a little stressful. But it helped us determine exactly what we thought was happening.
Right. Yeah, so let's see, by the time that we put the FSE in, Dr. Bowman was sitting in the room and just basically sat in the room for an hour and a half.
Yeah, I think it was like 1:30 in the morning at that point. 1:15 something.
Yeah, that sounds all right. And we went to C-section. Well, baby was born at 4:06.
Yeah.
So we rolled back to C-section at 3:30. Took our time because Maggie was never in any immediate danger. However, there was these times where we would get you in this perfect position, and you'd be in this you were on your hands and knees, you're on your knees, and the bed was up, and you were leaned over like this. And Maggie loved that. And then you'd stand up, and her heart rate would go, no, no, no.
Yeah.
And then there was another point where right when we had put in the FSE, and I had you in high throne position, so that position where you were kind of sitting like a Buddha with your yoga ball.
Yeah.
And you're like, this is kind of comfortable. And I was like, yeah, and the baby's heartbeat was perfectly fine. And then I was like, okay, the baby's been good. You could probably lean back. And then you leaned back for a second, and the baby was like, nope, and went down to 60 beats a minute. And
it was just so fast.
I was like, never mind, huh?
Yeah.
And I walked out to the nurse's station, and Dr. Bowman, because Dr. Bowman had been at the nurse's station at that point, and Dr. Bowman was like, what did you do to the baby? I was like, I don't know. So, and I had sat you back up in high throne after that no, and then it did it another time, and then it did it another time, and I was like, no, we need to switch you.
Yeah.
And at that point, it was like, I'm so glad that we had the FSE in, and we had Dr. Bowman in the hospital and at the nurse's station, just ready to go. And I remember even before Dr. Bowman got there, it was like an hour before she got there, and I was struggling to find her baby's heartbeat. And you looked at me and you're like, we're going to go C-section, aren't we? And you're honestly the first person that I've ever honestly been like,
yeah.
Probably.
I don't know why I had that feeling, but I did. I just was like, this is not going to go well. I guess it was just an intuition of, and that was hours before. Like you said, it wasn't like we were even there yet.
Yeah. It was
but
midnight.
Watching, they had these big monitors up, and so I could see, her heart rate, my contractions, and just watching those, as soon as my contraction would start, then her heart rate would go down, and watching that was becoming more and more stressful. And I just was like, I'm going to have a C-section. I know I'm going to have a C-section. So as soon as it got to that point, Dr. Bowman, she asked me some question about, like, what do you think, or are you ready, or, and I was kind of like, well, if we're going to do it, let's do it. Let's not wait another hour or another.
And she goes, you could just stay in this position because, and you're like this, and she's like, you can just stay in this position and just, you know, babies, there's no emergency, and you're like,
No, I can't.
I'm really uncomfortable. You know,
really
like after like a half hour, you stood up and you're like, oh, this feels so much better. And I was like, I need you to never do that again. Please go back.
Maggie hates that.
Yeah, that's what I said. I was like, Maggie hates that.
Yeah.
So. Yeah.
But I had an epidural at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, I mean, I was able to move, but not well.
Yeah.
And everything kind of hurt, and it was kind of numb, and it was awkward. It was just super awkward.
So what did we say? How many things were attached to you? So we got the lactated ringer, Pitocin, oxygen, epidural, Foley catheter, FSC, IUPC.
Yeah, 7 things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so those were actually in, and then the FSE decided to stop working when you like were leaning back on the peanut.
Yeah.
So then I attached you to the outside ultrasound.
Yeah.
And then I think the IUPC was doing fine. So we had at one time 8 things attached to you.
Yeah, like you said, that was like literally everything you had. There was
Everything.
no other option.
You pulled out every single stop that I can possibly do the entire time you've been here. But then we went back to the OR, and you and Tony was a wreck outside waiting.
Yes.
And I remember you were totally fine. You were like glowing. You were just so happy. And
I was ready.
You were so ready.
Ready.
We pulled out your epidural and we gave you a spinal. And Tony was sitting out there waiting. And I remember because once you go back to the OR, you are the OR's patient. You're no longer my patient.
Okay.
And so I had to because I know Tony at this point. I had to find a Kleenex box and the second I found it was over by basically where Tony was, and I was like, okay, buddy, this is for you. And you're like, I'm a crier. And I was like, yeah, I know. And so I brought the Kleenex box back to the OR, and then I kept coming in and out of the OR, and Tony kept being like, yeah? And I was like, not yet, sorry. And then finally I was like, all right. I think I said to you, I was like, you ready to be a dad? Like ushered you into the OR and told you where to sit. And you sat up at Nicole's head, and we just sat there and waited. And while we were waiting, the first couple incisions were done, and the scrub tech started feeling really woozy and lightheaded and dizzy, and apparently she had a migraine. I didn't know that, and she's like, I think I'm gonna throw up. And then it was like, oh no. But Kara, thankfully, the other OB nurse who had been in the room constantly, she was standing next to me in the OR, and I remember being like, what are you doing here? She's like, I don't know, just an extra set of hands, just in case you need it, whatever. And I think she was so invested in you guys at that time too, because you're such special patients, that she just wanted, sometimes you just want to see your patient to the end. And so she was standing there in her bunny suit, just like Tony's bunny suit, the white outfit, looked like getting ready to paint or something. And so she was ready to go. So Dr. Bowman was like, I need somebody to help me. And so Kara went back in the back, and she got her sterile outfit on, and she got her sterile gloves on, and I was also in the back, making sure that the girl wasn't going to pass out. And I was just standing there making sure that everything was going to be okay, because the baby wasn't out yet. I didn't have anything to do. And so Kara went to the back, and she was like, ready. And Dr. Bowman said, no, Kara said, what do you need me to do? And Dr. Bowman said, well, at the very least, I need you to move these blades so that I can put the baby on Nicole's legs. And so Kara moved all the blades, which are just flat, blunt pieces of metal. And she put those all to the side, and then Maggie was born, and she was put on Nicole's legs, and she started crying immediately. And
I was hysterically crying as soon as I heard her.
Yeah.
It's like the movies.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's like, oh my God, she actually is, there is a baby in there, and she's alive, and she's here.
And then 60 seconds later, they cut her cord, and the pediatrician lifted her up, and Tony looked over the edge and was able to see Maggie for the first time. And then the pediatrician brought Magnolia over to the warmer, and me and Carlene, the NNP, we wiped her off, and I looked over, and Tony's standing right there. like so ready and waiting to see his baby and take pictures and do all his like dad stuff. And he's crying, of course, and so happy. And then we weighed her, and she was 6 pounds 5 ounces, and she had APGARs of 8 and 9, which were really good, right where we want them. And then we wrapped her up, and I handed her to Tony, and then I took your camera.
Yeah, that was like the best part.
And took 247 photos.
Yes, the best. 247.
Some selfies, you know.
Yes, yes.
And
I'm so thankful you did that, because we wouldn't have had any pictures, just because there's no hands.
Yeah, you're busy.
There's no hands. It was so awesome.
Yeah.
So we have Tony's first look at his daughter, and our first look at each other, right? We have so many pictures. And I think you put her on my chest a little bit, but I was kind of uncomfortable because I couldn't, I didn't feel in control. So I let Tony hold her mostly.
Yeah. Yeah, and she was so content. I remember she had one hand that was purple.
Yeah.
And I was like, that's totally normal. And she was so content. She was so content. Like, she like cried a little bit over the warmer, but I remember we put her on your chest and she was just like, I'm here. She was so happy, and like everybody was so happy. The whole room was just filled with joy. It was,
Everyone was like relieved.
Yeah, I keep
And
telling
she was
you
safe.
guys, this is like one of my favorite deliveries. Like just the whole. I've just have been so blessed to have you guys. It's been really wonderful.
Well, it's like, again, it's such a. It was not planned, but it was perfect. Like, I mean, all these little steps. I mean, it wasn't horrible. It was fine.
Yeah.
And now she's here.
She's right there.
She's all snuggled and. Yeah, it's a crazy birth story. Everyone has a different birth story, right? There's not anything that's too the same.
Yeah, which is why it's so important when people are like, well, this is what happened when I, and it's like, you're like, well, you're going to have a very different experience, and yours is going to be perfect for you, you know?
Right.
So,
and it's going to be different no matter what.
Yeah. So after you got mostly, actually all the way stitched up, and we were ready to kind of roll, and you were ready to go to PACU, and we were ready to go back to the OB, me and Tony went together, and I remember Tony, we rolled back to, we were in the hallway, and we were waiting for the doors to the OB open, and I was like, new dad right here, and we rolled you back into the hallway, and I remember you like had your hand on the warmer, and because you were directed, like you weren't allowed to let Magnolia out of your sight, and you were like, no, I don't want to, and you were so like proud, and so like it was just palpable how happy you both were. And then Kara was like, oh, let's do skin to skin, and you were like, yeah, sure. And so you did skin to skin with Maggie, and you put her on your chest, and I was like, okay, this is the point where I'm gonna leave you for a little bit. I'll be back in like 5-10 minutes. I've got some things to collect. And one of the nurses had to go in your room for something, I don't know what, and she came back to the nurse's station, and she goes, that dad is sobbing, and it is the cutest thing on the planet. It was.
You were melting, weren't you, Tone?
Yes, I was.
You are now.
Yeah, your guys' birth story is really special. You guys are very lucky.
Was it the best? Tell us how you felt, Tony. How did you feel about when she left you in here? What did you think?
It was the most wonderful and terrifying moment of my life, and I wouldn't change anything for the world.
When I came back from the recovery room, is that what it is? The recovery room? I said, Tony, are you doing skin to skin? How is it? And he says, do you know she's left me in here for 16 minutes? And I said, it's okay. He's like, no, I don't know what I'm doing. I said, you're doing exactly what you're supposed to be doing. Right.
Yeah. That little girl, I tell you what. I wasn't supposed to be on camera. I was supposed to be filming this whole thing. So.
But you're crying behind the scenes.
Too bad.
Should we say hi, Maggie? Say hi to the vlog.
Hi.
Say hi. Say I'm so sleepy. You're full? Oh.
Look at her.
Right.
All right.
Let her close it somehow.
Well, again, I just am so thankful that you guys were able to have me as your nurse, and the whole time too, like from the moment that you guys were really, really in labor to the moment that we decided that it was time to go to the C-section.
Well, I think you've been our night nurse.
Every single night.
Every single night,
your
yeah.
night nurse. Yeah, which is of course the most important shift. So. Yeah.
Well, but it's been so consistent that it's nice.
Yeah.
It's reassuring.
Yeah, I know. It's like at this point too, like I came into your guys' room tonight with coffee. I was like, okay, here we go.
Yeah.
I mean, she doesn't let me drink coffee anyways. Magnolia's like, no coffee for you. Every time I'd sit down for coffee, I needed to
She needs help.
Yeah, exactly. So it's just been awesome, especially because I know you guys have such a important birth story. It's been years and it's been expensive. And I know.
Yeah.
There she
It's been very
goes.
expensive to get you here. Huh?
Yeah. But
So.
you're worth every heartache.
Yeah.
Comes
And
this
I
little
told you.
rainbow.
I told you guys, I'm not really big on babies, but when I held her for the first time, I was like, I love her so much.
I know.
I don't know why. You guys have a babysitter for life, so just let me know when you need me, okay?
And for all the Growing a Johnson watchers, this was an IVF story. Oh.
Tell
But
Dad, say it's okay.
It's not going to end here.
Nope. Yep. All of our, there's a purpose for our pain, and look at it.
So there it
She's
is.
Here. Our purpose. Huh, our purpose.
All right.